Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Checking twice. Checking 3 times. Trevor? Okay.
I encourage everyone to feel free to stand up, and we'll have a moment before our keynote for a break. That will be about 8 o'clock. But you're welcome to grab dessert and feel free to move around as you would like. It will not be a distraction to us in any way. We're a very casual group. So on that note, welcome. My name is Julie White. I'm the chair and privileged to be so for the year 2022 of the Chemical Engineering Group here in Houston. We're known as the South Texas Section, American Institute of Chemical Engineers. We have 28 and a half counties that we represent. We go all the way up to Brazos County, and we're represented tonight by a member who's traveled in from Brazos County. And we go as far south as Brazoria, and essentially we surround greater Houston, Texas. I'll real quickly say that we have the privilege every year to award 12 university scholarships to 4 universities in chemical engineering in our section. We award 6 Science Engineering Fair of Houston Awards for special awards. We support K through 12 outreach in additional ways, such as the Reach for the Stars program that'll be this Saturday at Rice University. We have a PE prep course that was designed and created here in Houston, the only one of its kind, or I should say the first of its kind. And that's going on right now. We'll talk more about what we do in announcements, but we have monthly meetings the first Thursday of the month and various activities throughout the year. If you have any questions, those of you who are guests to our section for the first time, please feel free to speak to myself or one of our officers. If you're an officer or director or committee chair, if you could raise your hand. Thanks. Or past chair. We also have a past chair that raised his hand. So, yes, thank you. Many around. So, and you're welcome to reach out to us to learn more about what we do. Thank you. So our agenda for tonight is first the workshop that we had. I'll thank AJ here in a minute. We'll start out with our Science Fair Awards first. If you need to go home afterwards, feel free to do so. We know that you're in school and that you may have a long drive ahead of you. Then we'll do regular announcements and awards, and then we'll have our keynote speech by Mr. Chad Carson. We do record our presentations, our meetings. We do post them to the website, so know that you may be recorded, your voice or your image, and just to let you know that that's the case, that we do post those to our workshop meetings, and we have done so for about a decade. I had this slide in last month as a cybersecurity moment. And again, I just want to provide that there's 2 websites that were well received in the community when I presented in November on the topic. And that is the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog by CISA. You can look at that. Everything from something as common as your Apple iPhone and a fix for a threat that you may not be aware of, to something as complex that's used in industry or on those sites, and then cybersecurity at home. So this is a hot topic, and of course we had AJ Jarrett, who's right up front here, who's the Director of Cybersecurity, Defense, and Compliance with AMSYS Innovative Solutions. And AJ just has a very thorough background in outreach and educational venues, as well as things from FBI InfraGard membership. And so he is up to speed on what is going on in the world with respect to cybersecurity, cyber threat, and vulnerabilities. And we're very pleased to have AJ here tonight. Thank you. So, yes. Thank you. And we also have his colleague Tyler here as well, who's part of the cybersecurity team for their employer. So first up, we're going to have the privilege for our Science Fair Awards. What we'll do is we'll have Matt Kolodny come on up, and Matt will present the awards, and I will do the formal handshake. And I'd like to thank Eureka Diaz-Beloez for putting together our packets that she does such a beautiful job doing. Matt? Matt is our K through 12 committee chair and coordinator, and he will talk about the role of the science fair and judging and the results. Thank you, Matt.
Let's see. Just to go forward. Well, thank you. Well, first I want to thank Julie, because the science fair means a lot to her, because when she was in high school, both she and her twin sister won awards in the science fair, and they both went on to excellent careers as engineers. And she's contributed a lot during the year getting ready for this. And I also want to thank our members who judged. If you could stand up for just a few seconds. Paul Waits and David Mitchell and Pete. And there were half a dozen other people who helped out who aren't here tonight. And let's see, we also want to thank the parents who of the science fair winners who contributed to what their children did, and also helped me get everybody here tonight, and helped us get the right graphing calculators for the children, so we don't want them to wind up with high-price, high-tech paperweight. And they all help to make sure they got the right calculators for their children. Now, if you could start coming up. Okay, first would be Raj Mehtar. Raj is a 10th grader at the Academy of Science and Technology. That's in Conroe, right? And it's had a lot of winners over the years. And Raj did a project on evaluation of natural and edible coatings to extend shelf life of fruits. And that was our first place winner in the senior division. And I remember seeing that when I was judging this year. I remember some of the, oh, thank you, Carol. I remember, some of these from judging a couple of months ago. And then we have, if, let's see, Shivani and Madeline could come up. They won the second prize award. Let's see, they're also at the Academy of Science and Technology where they're in 10th grade. That seems to be a very good school. I know over the years they've gotten a lot of awards. And they did a project on engineering a sustainable and inexpensive cellulose battery cell. And they were a team project and did a great job. And then there's, okay, if the Geppert twins could come up. Okay, you'll be on deck. Okay, they go to Clear Falls High School. They're also 10th graders, and they did a project on air scrubber, contact surface area, and pressure. That's a very hardcore chemical engineering project. Their father is also a chemical engineer, and pardon me, he's a mechanical engineer, but he's in a chemical engineering company, and they so they did a and they did a project, as I said, also 10th graders. Thank you for the great work. And next we have in the junior division, 7th grader at York Junior High School, Braden Mastrolio. Come on up. And Braden did reaction rate of an antacid tablet, and that's a very good job for a 7th grader. Chemical kinetics is a big job in chemical engineering. And his father's worked for ExxonMobil. And the next people, unfortunately, couldn't make it this evening. Their daughter, Fiona Monreal, did a project, what brand of hairspray preserves balloon animals most effectively. And she's also at York High School in 7th grade. And she isn't here, so we're going to have to mail the award to her. And finally, we have the 3rd place in the junior division. The project is What Material is Most Soundproof? And that's by Ria Prajapati, and she's in 8th grade at York Junior High School. Congratulations. One brief thing I want to mention is in the senior division, the winners, part of their prize is a book by one of our most distinguished members, Vic Edwards, and it's on chemical and biological engineering jobs. And it's great because it not only talks about chemical engineering in general, but it goes into the different specialties in chemical engineering to give people an idea of what the different functions do. It's an excellent book for people in senior high school to read. Well, thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Carol.
I think you clicked buttons.
Well, no, I want to go back on purpose.
Okay.
I think I lost. I have AJ's gift. So I always forget that. So sorry about that, AJ. Let's see. I don't think it's encrypted, but I like the joke. For those that were online, we had an encryption joke over here. So one of the things that Matt Kolodny does as well is organize Reach for the Stars, and it's this Saturday, April 9th. And so it's a junior high STEM event at Rice University. I volunteered last year. It was a lot of fun. Essentially, there's an interactive display that we'll be hosting this year, and if you'd like to volunteer, Matt can use 1 or 2 more volunteers. Huge turnout for it this year, so thank you, Matt, for coordinating that.
I just thought I'd take a few seconds.
Yes.
Our project this year is making ice cream.
Our project this year is making ice cream. That is going to be a hit. I can't wait to hear how the concept came up after the meeting. Great idea. Okay, for more information, please see Matt's email or reach out to him tonight in person. So a couple things. I presented this last month, and I believe the month before, but I really want you to know that we care about what you want as members. And so the middle of last year, we submitted a membership survey to the 2,800 members that are national members, as well as our local section members. And why do people participate in a local section? Well, we had a phenomenal 574 responses. And networking, relevant speakers, PDH credits. Our top interest areas are energy, plant operations, design and technology advancements, process safety, sustainability, decarbonization. And so you'll see those topics are carried forward for our agenda this year. We identify as 37% downstream in plant operations and 24% engineering and construction. Some of the that we are breaking this year are schedule and time. Therefore, we're offering the hybrid meeting attendance. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio based on the survey of those that wanted to attend in person to those that would want the option for an online or hybrid approach. You know, traffic is going to be picking up in Houston. We have 29 counties that we represent. So this is a way to have more people with a lower cost option as well for their attendance and participation. What we have on our website are the schedule for 2022. So if you go to the STS AICHE website, you'll see our calendar of meetings, workshops, and events, as detailed as we have at this time. We do have a local section option for membership, and that is you can join the local section for $25 with the intent to join national. You can also join the local section while you're renewing your dues for national, but you have multiple options. So know that if price is a barrier for attendance to folks, please let them know that for 2 years, they can join for $25 a year and participate in the local section. Okay. I'd like to give thanks to our PE review course. The session closes out on March 13th. It's being hosted at U of H. We have a number of folks who created this course, and you know, the reason why I passed my PE. And I'd like to give kudos to Dennis Griffith for calling. He made the phone call this week. We were one of the first groups in 2 years, and so we will be attending on June 3rd. We'll do a 5:30 check-in at the dock. Remember, it's maritime time, so 6 p.m. departure is really 5:55 walking the gangplank, so to speak. You got to, you know, enter, not the gangplank, but the boat. But so we'll depart. The details will be essentially on our website. We'll depart sharply at 6, no kidding around. It will be a free box dinner, and know that we'll be opening registration at a certain time and date, and we'll close it. It does obviously have a maximum participation due to the boat size. IDs are required. It's a port. I think it's Secret Service that still handles the ID checks for that. If you have any questions, please feel free to email Dennis Griff for Dennis Griffith at sbcglobal.net. So at this point in time, I'd like to start off with one of the best jobs the chair ever has, and that is to announce the fellow. So it'll take me a minute to get out my notes. So it's my pleasure to announce Andreas Mitsakos as AICHE Fellow 2022. Oop, hold on. I hit the mouse button, sorry about that. So Andreas's current role with Shell is U.S. Academic Partnerships Manager, and he's also the chair-elect for STS. He's a recognized industry leader. It's a privilege to volunteer with him. Great initiative and insight. He has a strong drive in R&D and program management, product development, and novel technology deployment in energy and chemicals R&D. He's over 30 years experience in process development and engineering, catalyst and reaction engineering, upstream, downstream facilities. So he is a senior member of AICHE, and again, our chair-elect. He has a proven track record for process modeling, optimization, and design of specialty chemicals, gas conversion, fuel decarbonization, improved oil recovery, and water treatment plants. He has a passion for safety, health, environment, sustainability, and transition to decarbonized energy sources. He currently is part, again, of the Academic Partnerships program for Shell and manages that. He is interested in long-term partnerships with academic and third-party R&D providers that have cutting-edge technologies. He contributed to numerous process development and product launch initiatives in his career, including co-developing and co-designing a plant to produce 1,3-propanediol as monomer for Catera fiber in fibers and textiles and carpets, co-developing and co-designing a plant to recycle spent hydrocarbon processing catalyst from refineries to recover metals for reuse, deploying a novel membrane deaeration process in offshore platforms to remove oxygen from seawater before injecting it into the reservoir, and of course, several more. He is a subject matter expert for water flood facilities. He's a technical classification expert for Shell export control. He's an adjunct professor at Rice University. He's listed in the Who's Who in science and engineering. He's Champions of Quality Award at Shell all the way back in 1996. Long-standing accomplishments and awards, and he's received multiple excellence awards for teams as well, team participation. So it's my pleasure to award my vice chair, Andreas Mitsakos.
Thank you, everyone, for all the support you've given me all through the years. I can probably point explicitly to Tom Mean, who I know at least for 30 years since I was a young engineer. And I want to say this organization is really precious for our profession. And I'm glad to see so many young faces who are following on our lead. So these recognitions count a lot for bringing new talent to our energy and chemicals industry. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tom Min. Tom will be awarding our Best in Practice paper.
Okay, we're going to recognize the 2019, 2020, and 2021 and 2022 South Texas Section Award recipients. First, we want to recognize the 2019 Outstanding Young Professional, Emily Jackson. Yes, you, Emily. I know we don't. Yeah. Hey, I have done that before. And Emily, just stay up here. Get over here for a minute. 2019 STS AICHE Best in Practice paper, William Pittman. Case study on a fire within a road-based portable bitumen storage tanker. He's talking about an asphalt trailer. You know, those roofing things. Okay. You can go sit down. 2020 STS AICHE Young Chemical Engineer of the Year, Emily Jackson. That's what. Okay, you're through now.
Okay.
Okay, Julie, you gotta move this next one up because, oh, there it is, good. The 2021 South Texas Section AICHE YP Chair Appreciation Award to Kevin Zhang, and also the 2022 STS AICHE Young Chemical Engineer Award of the Year Award, Kevin Zhang. I actually presented the thing, if you can call it, the Young Chemical Engineer thing to him. It was in front of Specs on Smith Street. I needed to go to Specs, and he was not far downtown. Unfortunately, Kevin has a busy work schedule, and he's also moving out of the area. So that's as close as we'll get to see him for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate all of the work that you and the awards committee do, and obviously the sense of humor that you bring to everything that you do in leadership. So next up, I'd like to announce or introduce Dennis Griffith, who will be introducing Chad Carson, our speaker. Dennis? Hold on.
Well, you're probably wondering why we would be looking at economics and not technical, looking at all the things that people really wanted. But if it weren't for the economics, none of us would be here. You know, Houston is basically the center of chemical engineering, and there's a lot of industry here. There's engineering and construction. There's, you know, petrochemicals. There's refining. There's real chemicals, and all this needs to be coordinated and advocated. So I think, you know, it would be very advisable for us to see something, you know, that how we bring it all together. So without saying much more, I'd like to introduce this evening's after dinner speaker, a native of Buffalo, New York, but he's thawed out now. He's down here. Chad Carson. Thank you.
The after-dinner speaker just before bed speaker, I think, is what I am, all right? So Chad Carson with the Economic Alliance of the Houston Port Region. Let me kind of get situated here. Let's get a better view of that. So who are we? Really what our mission is, we're a nonprofit organization created in 1985, and I think Dennis has some history going all the way back to that after talking to him there at the table. Mentioned some folks that have been there. Our mission is to grow and market a vibrant regional economy. And when I say a vibrant regional economy, I mean the Houston Port region, the ship channel, the 25-mile ship channel. And we do that through our initiatives, and basically this is gonna be the organization of the presentation today. Economic development, transportation, workforce development, public policy, and quality of life. So the footprint, I think I'm speaking to the choir when I say it's the most sought-after region in the world for petrochemical manufacturing, maritime, and logistics operations. 25-mile ship channel, you can see it there, right? World's largest petro complex, nation's busiest port in terms of foreign tonnage. And our organization has 250-plus private sector members. I would imagine folks that you guys work for here in the room. 11 cities we have contractual relationships with, Harris County, and then Port Houston. And the impact of the ship channel, I'm lucky enough to do economic development in one of the greatest growth engines in the nation, The U.S. impact of the ship channel, roughly $802 billion in economic value. The job thing always just blows me away. 3.2 million in jobs. The Texas impact is roughly 21% of the state GDP and 1.3 million jobs and 5.6 billion in state and local tax revenue. And this study was actually done in 2018 by Port Houston, and I believe it's going to be updated here in the next couple months. So I would imagine those numbers are just going to be immensely larger. So economic development, this is really my responsibility at the Alliance, and the mission for myself is to identify, support companies that want to locate or expand in the Houston Port region, build our project pipeline, provide professional responses, solutions, strengthen member and ally relationships. When I say allies, back to those 11 cities, Port Houston and Harris County. Ultimately, what we're measured on, the whole organization, is securing capital investment in the region and growing jobs. And you can see this is specific to our activity since 2018 or 2008. So there's been a ton more that we didn't touch on the ship channel. And I'll get into how we touch it here in a second, but I just want to show you 74 project wins, which is roughly 5 a year, 16.3 billion of capital investment over that span of time, and roughly facilitating 3,700 jobs. And this was the wins in 21. And you can see Covestro, Stepan, Air Products, Holder Topso, and Kelsey Seabold. And the activities with these folks, Covestro, I want to say we helped with a permitting issue to move that project along. Stepan was a 313 agreement with the state of Texas. Air Products was another permitting issue. And then Holder Topso, this one's rather unique. It probably is going to go right over your guys' heads because you're not in economic development in Houston, Texas. But Harris County very rarely does a property tax abatement, and they haven't done one in 8 years. And Holder Topso got one in July of this past year to create their 197 jobs and 65 million of capital investment. And we facilitated that process as that conversation with the county. And then you can just see I put this up here, I kind of call it my pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID. But if you just really focus on 20 and 21, the height of the pandemic there, 1.2 billion of capital investment still went in the ground. And then in the 21, 1.9 billion. And really what was down in that year in that capital investment was the petrochemical investments. There was more service firms in that tally than the year prior and the year after. But I think the positive thing to really take away from that is that job creation is continuing to go up in the ship channel. The project pipeline, right now there's 21 projects in the pipeline, 6.6 billion of capital investment, rolling out to about 1,000 jobs new and 300 retained. This is all early stage conversations with companies. And, I'm pretty optimistic with this pipeline that it's going to grow, and I'll get into it here in a second, based on the cargo volumes that are going through the port's expansion, the 50 billion that has gone into the ground in petrochemical over the last 8 years, the capacity that's out there. And then in 15 years of doing economic development in Houston, Texas, the leads, a lot of the communities rely on the marketing efforts from both the governor's office and then the Greater Houston Partnership. That's the expensive aspect of economic development. So they go out, tell the story of the region, and ultimately those leads come back. Probably, over the years, you get 2 a month. Since January 1, I think I've fielded about 18, and that's just in the ship channel. And we really kind of don't dabble in the corporate headquarter office aspect of things. So it's just been gangbusters, absolutely. And then the other aspect that's going to help with that pipeline is we go out and we talk to the companies. We ask about problems, provide solutions, and then really kind of uncover those growth aspects of capital investment and job creation, and then apply them back to these services. I provide a professional relationship to really navigate the ship channel, to navigate those allies, navigate our partners, conduct real estate searches, participate in site selection tours. I'll just harp on this one for 1 second here. We had a Korean company that came out of a lead from the governor's office that I had answered in January. They were looking at about 100 acres of industrial greenfield, and we found 4 sites. We entertained 6 of their executives at our office in March, toured them around. They got the lay of the land of Houston, Texas, the ship channel, got to put their feet on the real estate, and then they'll go back and analyze. And we're up against, I want to say it's Phoenix and Nashville on that one, but that's really kind of the process, the real world example. And then access the data. They had a ton of questions about taxes, incentives, workforce, address that. Provide guidance and really that facilitation to both Harris County and the governor's office. And then when it gets a little bit more real, we'll advocate, if there's any hiccups in the projects and mobilize our partners to help out. So that's really my day-to-day right there. That's me at the Economic Alliance. I could stop there, but I won't. So we do much more. Unless you guys want to go to bed. I was telling them, I think this is the latest I've been dressed in I don't know how long. Jeez. You saw the bubble of economic development, and now we're on to that bubble of transportation. And this, I'm going to talk specifically about the ship channel, and more specifically, the maritime supply chain. So the container volume at Port Houston in February totaled roughly 270,000 TEUs, and that's 20-foot equivalent unit, which is 20 feet long, 8 by 8, basically what you see on the back of an 18-wheeler, a little bit smaller, which is 30% more than it was February of last year. So the first 2 months of 22, that's gone up 31% year to date. And Houston has seen Asian imports via the Panama Canal go from 0 to 37% in the last 6 years. And another record is Houston's hit 3 million TEUs in 19, and that was topped by 3.5 in 21, and obviously expected to increase. And this is just really another look. You can see the 3.5 million there in 2021. And then, obviously what helps us quite a bit too is we're an import and export port, because right now there's a lot of shortage of containers going back. That's a big dent on the supply chain logistics. So we have that stuff coming in. We can get it back to China and kind of keep that relationship going. But you can see it kind of, it dips a little bit there in 2020, and you all know what that is the pandemic and really our drop in fossil fuel uses. But what's come back up in 2021 is really, it sounds pretty elementary, but it's clicking and buying stuff online is really fueled the activity that's coming through the port right now. And, I wish I had the slide from 19 on this. 20% was, or in 19 it was about 17% container traffic, and that's gone up to 20% in 21. And then the liquid bulk dropped from 74% to 70%, and again, most likely attributed to that fossil fuel downturn during the pandemic. And this, I always mess up the website, but if you get a chance, you got to get on here, and you can zoom in, and you can find any ship in the world, and it is, you can get lost on it for hours, pretty much. What my boss does on it, his son drives a tugboat in the ship channel, so he'll know where he's at all the time. He just punches in, boom, and he can see where his kid's at all the time in the ship channel. It's pretty wild. And then another way we use this, my boss, one day, I'm walking by his office, he's like, you got to come in here. You got to hear this. You got to hear this. So he's on the Harris County Sports Authority Board, and I want to say probably in January or February, there was the International Ping Pong Tournament, or table tennis, I think is what you call it, don't call it ping pong. Well, all those tables, apparently they have a special floor that they play on. It was all caught on a ship, and it was caught in that logistics nightmare that's going on right now. So he got the director of the port on the phone. They found it, and really what they talked about was what's it look like, of how long till it gets here, so they could, have a backup plan. But all went well. I think it was about 4 days late, and that tournament went off. And I think they had about 3,000 people watch the finals of that. But just an interesting tidbit of that. So there's roughly this, I think I did this on Wednesday, there's roughly 65 ships waiting out there to dock compared to 35 normally, which is about a 50% increase. To put it in perspective, Long Beach, I think, is well over 100 ships, and the normal wait time to get in, and the normal days would be 2 to 3, and now it's 4 to 6. But if the well over 100 out there in California is a wait time into the week. So, and again, what helps us is that container stuff going back out. Ooh, I gotta catch my breath here. So, the port is poised for the future. I didn't get to see this. I missed it by a day. I don't know if you guys have ever been at the San Jac Maritime Institute. It's right across from the Bayport Terminal in Shore Acres. And I was at the school the day after this came in, where they came in, turned it right around in front of the school, and then went back to Bayport. The Panamex liners were, I want to say it's about 160-ish feet across, so these cranes can reach all the way across and grab the containers off. They're amazing to see, absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And then the other aspect of what's going on, you put in this equipment, so what's going to have to happen is the ship channel is going to have to be widened and deepened to accommodate that. And Project 11 is $1 billion expansion of the ship channel right now, and I have a slide on that here in a second. So you can see, the infrastructure in regards to the cranes and the equipment, the deepening and the widening, and then, the things that they can do on the ground in respects to nighttime trucking, extended terminal hours, and then potentially a freight shuttle that's probably years away of, rather getting on a truck, getting on rail, and a little bit inland versus, I don't know how often you guys get down 225, 146 at about 2 in the afternoon. The trucks at it's awful. But going to Barber's Cut, the trucks will back up off of 146 onto 225, and they get off at that exit, and it's just a jam all the way in. It's about 7,000 trucks a day coming in and out of there, and that's just that portion of the container terminal. Yeah, it's good, but it's bad for if you live over there, And this, this is kind of more proof of, I mentioned Project 11, and hopefully I can get this to work here. This is called the Texas Chicken Maneuver. And these guys literally go right at each other, and then the hydrodynamics will separate them so they don't hit. But imagine when you put wind into that and current and very limited area to where you can go. So check this out. I mean, those are huge vessels that don't have brakes, I mean, look at that. So that's, kind of the reasoning of the widening of the ship channel. And, did it change the? Okay. Yeah, there was 142 million that had just happened in the worded bill, I think, just in the last couple weeks. So it is this. It's $1 billion project that has very limited public funding. Part of that is because it would probably take 10 years to accomplish that. So the port is just doing it themselves. And in the meantime, I'll get into some of our public policy stuff. They're asking for some of that back from the federal government, and that's what some of that 142 is. So widen the channel by 170 feet along the Galveston Bay Reach. Basically, kind of when you enter there in the bay, and then all the way up to the ship channel from 530 feet to 700 feet. And then also deepen the upstream segments to about 46, which is about 40 to 42 through there now. So that's the 52 miles basically from up there or from down there in Galveston Bay, and then almost back into downtown here. So, again, you saw the economic development bubble, you saw the transportation, kind of take that transportation bubble and split it to water and land. And, the port aspect of our advocacy, that's really handled by them. They got some big guns in Washington. They don't really need us, but we do still carry that message, and we do, still advocate for that. But where we really step up for them is on the ground side, and I'll show you here. So at our organization, we have a committee of transportation stakeholders, and this is made up of all the mayors along the ship channel, East Harris County Manufacturing Association, port representation, Harris County transportation folks, TxDOT, and HGAC, Houston Galveston Area Council also. So this was more or less born out of, three things. One, moving that freight around there, Two, safety, and then the environment. So now they all sat down and they prioritized roughly 38 projects, because we never had a consistent voice go to TxDOT or HGAC and say, this is what we need. So this is pretty much what this committee does at this point. And I just took out 4 that are really at the front right now. The Pell study aspects here, I-10 East and San Jacinto River Bridge. You guys probably have heard that San Jacinto River Bridge, when a barge hits it and it's closed, you can't get through there. So this is probably 2 to 3 years away, but they're looking at that as a study right now to fix that to where, it's more efficient use underneath, and then on top widening of I-10. Oh, let me go back. And then State Highway 225, 610 expansion. Again, you guys, we talked about Barber's Cut. Originally, our ask was from 225 onto 146 as flyovers, similar to what's down in Bayport, and some flyovers into Barber's Cut. But the way it's configured right now, it's physically impossible to build that with kind of the height of the highway and, the turn radius and whatnot. So that's really going to roll into a bigger study of all of 225, and then the 610 bridge also on the other end. So those are still years away. And then design and work underway, the 146 expansion, widening basically from Fairmont to Red Bluff, going from 2 lanes to 3. They've already kind of cleared some of that side foliage on the highway if you drive through there. And then the Beltway Bridge, so this is the safety aspect, this is the environmental aspect, keeping, those ozone values where they're at. This is the Pell study for I-10 East, 225, 610 study. State Highway 146, design and work underway right now, the expansion and widening. And then, this is an interesting story. So this is, the Beltway Bridge and the 225 direct connectors. I keep looking at you because you seem to be over there a little bit, but coming here, I don't know if you ever got on 225 and you get towards that Beltway, and they're building a, $3 billion bridge right now, and you have to get off 225 and take a right turn and go north to get on that bridge. So they've approved 5 of the 8 direct connectors, but they left 3 out because it's really kind of a battle between the state and Hectra of who's going to pay for that. So again, this committee stepped up and said, we can't have this anymore. If you go back to just the traffic counts on this slide here of nearly 106,000 vehicles rolling through there, I think at one point in 2019, one year, there was 120 accidents through there. So that organization all got together, and I wish you could see that a little bit more, but 2 congressmen signed that, Brian Babin and, Sylvia Garcia, state representatives, port director, Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia, every mayor over there, ECMA, to say, we need to figure out a way to pay for this, and we can't let it, be built through the aspect of the way that it's designed now. So this just hit desks of TxDOT and HGAC, and also Harris County Hectra just in the last couple weeks. So I would imagine there will be a meeting that comes out of that, and hopefully, we get some funding and do the right thing on that portion of 225. So that is, to some extent, that's public policy too. Out of our organization, we communicate the region's legislative priorities clearly to both state and federal government. To obtain more federal funding, you can see example of that. Advocate for legislation or policy changes, and then really support our legislators to come with a voice that's consensus. They love that. They don't want to hear from 8 different factions. If we're all in agreement, it's easy for them to make a decision. And in reality, this is, again, I did a lot of this today, is we have a federal advocacy white paper. We went in October. We took about 25, I have a slide here. I'm kind of stealing my own thunder here. But in 21, we went with our federal white paper to DC to advocate for the infrastructure, the capital to widen the Houston Ship Channel, community college federal priorities for workforce opportunities, coastal barrier hurricane surge protection, the Ike Dike, I think is other names of it, and then open competition, which really there's no legislation around that, but just as things go out to bid, let the builder choose the material versus the RFI. So we were in DC in October, took roughly 21 folks from Houston with us, 25 meetings over 2 days. It's kind of small, but you can see we met with both U.S. senators. Roger Wicker, who was part of the infrastructure bill. That's why you'll see a contingent that isn't Texas. That's who those folks really are there. Just, the entire congressional delegation here in Houston. Again, the U.S. ones that had any type of impact on the infrastructure bill. And then we had meetings at major associations that I would imagine might interest you guys, from National Association of Manufacturers, American Fuel and Petro Manufacturers, and then the Maritime Administration. And then finally we had a dinner in DC, but we're gonna do that again here in the next couple weeks. It's pretty fun. It's a lot of fun. And we, as we roamed the Capitol, we were some of the first people outside of the incident or whatever that were roaming the halls and advocating for the region in person. We did it in person. It's been a while. I'm almost done. So, workforce development, this is another very important aspect of the SHIP channel. Industry went to the community colleges and said, we need these programs, we need these courses. They agreed, they're doing it, and now they turned to us and said, okay, we worked that out. Now we need people. We need people to come and become educated. So there's a young lady on our staff that is her sole responsibility to go out to the school districts in the SHIP channel and talk about petrochem, maritime, manufacturing as a job, and then even in some aspects as an alternative to a 4-year education. Because some of I don't know if you guys have been to the CPET at San Jack, that facility, absolutely phenomenal. The Maritime Institute, just phenomenal. I mean, these are probably some of the best facilities in education in the United States, and they're at a community college. So she's out really touting those programs. I want to say she had, at the beginning of the year, she already had like 48 presentations scheduled. And there's 52 weeks in a year. I mean, she's hit probably, I want to say, over 2,000 kids at this point. And you can see our numbers since 2016 with 400 presentations and roughly 40,000 contacts. And she'll bring folks from, the petro industry, in their gear, talk about, the debt that they don't have, the jet skis that they have, and, the dualies, the dually pickup trucks that they have so kids kind of perk up. And then quality of life, this is the last aspect. We have, I want to say, about 250,000 to spread throughout the Houston SHIP channel. We've allocated about 63,000 of that for beautification, community enhancement projects. So if you've been in Pasadena and see the murals on the signal boxes, and then LaPorte has a Gold Star family monument that's going in right now. And then several just actual organizations that are, making an impact through their missions. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, Imelda Assistance Fund, and then the Bridge over Troubled Waters. And that's why you didn't get Chad Burke tonight. So Chad Burke is my CEO, And a lot of times when I go somewhere, they're like, I thought Chad was coming. And so I don't know if you're disappointed or not that you got this Chad, but he's actually at a fashion show at the Bridge Over Troubled Waters tonight. He's on the board of that, so he's in shorts and sandals walking on stage, which I think this was a much better gig. So. And then thought leadership, I'll go through this pretty quick. Might be of interest to you guys. The Gulf Coast Industry Forum. You can see this is our signature event. We get roughly about 1,000 people out at that. Pre-pandemic, we were doing it over 2 days. We'll probably go back to that, not this September, but the following. But leadership panels on petro, oil and gas, freight mobility, regulation policy update, port update, elected officials, and then regulatory panels. It's actually pretty awesome. And then the other one I put in here, because this has really taken up steam. You can see this. This was, probably maybe about August. That was 352 women in the ship channel. That's our Women in Alliance. And we tap one leadership lady once a quarter that stands up and talks about how she got to where she's at on that side of town. We've had Stacy Putnam from Ineos. We've had Brenda Hillier from Sanjak. We just had Carol Alvarado, the state representative. So it's pretty awesome. It's really awesome. I'm outnumbered there, but it's awesome. And then everything we do, I'm almost done, is through member involvement. And their involvement comes through the task force of economic development, workforce, the quality of life, the women's leadership, transportation, public policy. It's not us as the staff, it's the memberships that's really setting the agendas and all these, and we just more or less get our prescription of work and follow that out internally. 250 plus members. It's a great place, great people. Gulf Coast Growth Show, if you get on our website and get on that website lightly, because we're right in the process of redoing it right now. It's a little antiquated, so it's going to change here shortly. So in summary, hopefully I've shown you an organization that's pretty well networked, high visibility with where we're at in the world in regards to the petrochemical complex and, the port insight. You can see through our events, the knowledge sharing, the task force, the voice that we are to both Washington and the state of Texas. And then I'll say this over and over. I worked for the Greater Houston Partnership for, I think, about 8 years. I would say this organization is the most impactful economic development agency in the state of Texas. And if you combine our economic development, our workforce development, our public policy, our quality of life work, and our transportation, I don't think anybody makes a bigger impact than, maybe I'm selfish, but I think you combine those, and really that membership involvement and the results that we've had, I think is second to nobody in Houston, Texas, let alone the state of Texas. So ultimately, we talked about, what is the takeaways. We're going to continue to protect and enhance the Houston Port region. We're going to protect that proximity to feedstocks. We're going to protect the access to markets and advocate for the port, do the right things with transportation pieces on both land and water, create that stable business environment through our policy advocacy, secure investment in the future, because if it's stable, you're more apt to invest. And then obviously you saw in the workforce, we're going to work to provide that abundant, skilled, available workers for the Houston Port region. So that's me. How long did that take? Oh, perfect. All right. Hopefully it was good. I'm out of breath for some reason. Like I just ran. I was telling them, I pulled in here, I'm like, man, I got that first spot right in front of the lobby. This is great. And I had to walk 2.5 miles to get to the room. I keep coming. I almost called in. I'm like, I'm not here. I'm not going to make it. It was, Oh, and then can I tell my last joke that I didn't get in?
Absolutely.
So, I'm a big Office fan, and last night I was watching it, thinking about the presentation, and Dwight says to Andy, he's like, you know what the PowerPoint is? He's like, what? It's like the peacock. It's a lot of flash and no meat. So hopefully there was a little meat in this for you tonight versus just feathers.
Thank you, Chad. We'll give Chad a round of applause, and I have an award for him, or appreciation for him. We will be taking questions first from the audience and then from the online MS Team format.
Is that a
Does that have anything to do with cybersecurity? Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
The obvious question nowadays is, has there been any reduction? I should know better. Has there been any reduction in traffic due to the reduced Russian traffic into the port?
I pulled the trade partners that more or less flow through the port, the top 5, and I don't even think there were the top 5 on there if I look back. So I don't know. I think common sense tells you, heck yeah, but I don't know. I don't know offhand. Sorry. I can look it up for you though. All right. But they didn't even make the top 5 of what was on there.
One thing that's going to affect the Houston area economy in the next couple of decades is energy transition. And I'm wanting to know, how are we approaching that, and basically, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, it needs to be part of one of our initiatives, and we're more or less figuring out our place in that right now. We have meetings with the Greater Houston Partnerships energy transition teams. We've reached out to Shell's folks. We want to sit down and kind of figure out where's our spot, where's our place as an organization. Is it a spot for my boss on a board? Is it initiatives that we need to take forward? But we're really kind of feeling our way through that right now.
I think everybody.
I think, it's, I will let folks remain nameless, but when we had this conversation with trying to set some of these meetings, what we're doing, basically they said the same thing to us. We're trying to figure out our spot too. So, but I think it's just good that everybody's talking. You can see the work that we've done on other aspects of the economy. So, I think there's a place for us for sure. Right. Yeah, I mean, I always say there's no blueprint for the busiest port in the United States and the largest petrochemical, complex in the United States of how to advocate and how to grow. So hopefully we're doing the right things of just the convergence of those two, and now add kind of that third, street, and we'll figure it out. I'm pretty confident.
All right, we have a question from online from Vincat. What is the Alliance doing to improve the safety image of the port channel companies?
We are really not doing anything specifically on that at all, our organization. Because I want to be clear, we're not the port. I would imagine the port is probably working with folks to do that a little bit more specifically on both their real estate along that ship channel, and then even those transportation vehicles that roll through there. So I can tell you the port's doing it, but we specifically are not. Because I think folks kind of confuse us as the port sometimes.
I also have a question. How much of the increase in traffic can be attributed to just ships getting to the West Coast and getting tired of the enormous wait times there and coming through the Panama Canal?
The one piece, that one bullet in there that says it quite a bit is the Asian traffic that was 0 basically 6 years ago, and it's now 37% of the ship channel's activity. So that's an aspect of the Panama Canal, and then folks not wanting to do that Long Beach wait.
I think this is, thank you for this talk, very interesting. One of the aspects is, as was mentioned, is safety. And the thing is, Taijin, I don't know if you heard about the port of Taijin. They had 4 years ago, a tremendous explosion, killed over 150 people and destroyed essentially a lot of the port and facility. The problem was warehousing, and there are lots of warehouses sprouting around the area because you need them, okay? And that's something that needs to be taken a look at. There's no coordination at who puts warehouses where, and they contain materials that there's lots of chemicals that come through those ships.
I think the one positive aspect, because, Houston is, and to some extent, fragmented, but, along that ship channel is LaPorte, Deer Park, Pasadena. Those folks are gonna have some pretty tried and true standards of what can happen in their community, so it's not just kind of a free-for-all along there.
And don't forget also about the East Harris County Manufacturers Association.
Right.
They're very,
Right. And I want to say, back to that East Harris County, and then, I didn't go into too much advocacy at the state level for us. That whole ITC incident, some standards of how to build those have changed, and the safety aspects around that, so that doesn't happen. If they're aged out at a certain point, they have to be retrofitted by a certain time. So there's a lot of discussion at both the state level, and I believe the city of Deer Park obviously led a lot of that conversation, because that's where that incident happened.
Okay, we have one more online question.
Hopefully it's not my mom. I gave her the link.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
It's a safety question, but more about weather safety and weather resilience. I think in 2017, when we were struck by Hurricane Harvey, there was some newspaper articles talking about what would happen if Harvey or an equivalent storm hit dead center to the ship channel, and something about the proposal to build really like a floodgate.
Right.
Can you tell us more about it, and is that happening?
That passed a pretty big hurdle in the state, 87th state legislature this past session, where the Gulf Coast Protection District was established. So they have a chairman and board members, and what that means is now there's a vehicle for federal money to go. So we would go to DC and you talk about, the Ike Dike now until you're blue, but nobody can help you until that district was established. So that's in place, and the mayor of Morgan's Point, Michelle Bechtel, is actually leading that charge of that organization. So that's a huge, huge hurdle. So now so there'll be, there's the aspect of getting it funded, and now the next aspect is design and environment, and how is that also going to impact the flow of the channel, because those pilots are pretty used to certain currents, and a lot of that discussions happen now. But the biggest hurdle's cleared, I think, right now. So it's just a matter of design and working out with the community, the state. And, okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, one more question from online from George. Are there any plans for future rise in sea level?
Ooh, you're asking the wrong guy in that. I'm in economic development. Right. Well, how about this? If I get in, because I'm a big guy, it's probably going to go up. Like when you're in a bathtub, it rises. That's the best answer I can give them. How's that for, that's got to be like a science experiment or something, right? I mean, right.
I'd like to thank Chad. A couple things that you touched on. Our September 1st, I think it is, it's the first Thursday of September, we tentatively have held San Jacinto Community College CPET building for our meeting. I'm actually adjunct, full disclosure, I'm adjunct professor process safety there.
Right. And I heard from Jim you're like a 5th generation petrochemical engineer or something too, is what I heard.
Yeah, I have safety men or, safety technicians in my background that worked for Humble Oil.
He speaks highly of you.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm a fan. Here's the big deal. Our speaker will be Dr. Sam Brody out of Resilience, Texas. And he was part of the Ike Dike team. Okay. And he's out of Texas A&M Galveston. And so we'll have more information on him when the time approaches. But he'll be an outstanding speaker on critical infrastructure and resilience programs in Texas. Next, I'll also share, and you are welcome to come as a guest if you'd like to see it. San Jacinto College Maritime Facility will be our holiday social in December.
It's phenomenal.
The contract will be signed in June. They're doing their gala planning right now before they do our contract for that event, but we'll be first up. And that'll be December 1st. It'll be a great venue. So beautiful time. It is probably capped at 80 participants, so kind of like the MV Sam Houston, it's capped at 50, 55. So make sure you keep an eye out when we start the registration for that. And you're always welcome to bring guests to our meetings. I would like to say, Chad, Thank you first to Dennis Griffith for finding Chad as a speaker. We really are informed on the opportunities that you're bringing to the table. The 21 projects that are moving forward are incredible. Thank you for what you do. As a native Houstonian, I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Are you gonna have a presenter at the Sandjack? Because I have a guy, we just had our economic development meeting there, he works for McCarthy Construction, he did 80% of that work at Bayport.
Really?
And it's right across the water there, he does an awesome job of the stuff that they're doing. Just think about it.
Okay. So I'd like to give one final thanks to Chad and AJ for their volunteering of their time and the creation of their presentations. It's forwarding there, but not here. Okay. So from a standpoint of our officers, again, it's over 20 folks put our meetings together and our activities. And so I just want to give a shout out to our officers, directors, and volunteers and committee chairman and the volunteers. We have a new volunteer that I'd like to give a shout out to. If you were part of the January and February meetings, we did officer announcements. And our Devanshi Wada is our new YP treasurer. And so if you know her, please welcome her on board. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you May 5th at the Bougainvilleas.